You know, one of the things, I attended an event at USC, and it was the Speaker of the House of California, one of the most powerful men in the state, who is a gay man, and I believe the only or first openly gay man that's a Speaker of a House of a state. And he insisted that gay marriage, all that, that's not actually that important, not compared to getting fired. And what's happening due to social media and law is that people are getting married on Sunday, posting it on Facebook status, man married man, woman married woman, whatever the case may be, and getting fired on Monday due to morality clauses or just living in a shitty state that has a shitty opinion about all this stuff. And we're dealing with that ourselves. And like people sometimes don't like it that I draw this parallel, but I'm gonna draw it anyway, that I know a lot of people scared as hell of getting fired from their super family-friendly network or whatever kind of family-friendly situation they have as a corporate life if they were to admit how non-monogamous and polyamorous they really are on social media. It'd be done. And it is a fear that is really hurting us, and we need to fight for that equality and to fight for basically anti-discrimination laws regarding the sexy.
If you look at the research on the likelihood that any given person will support pro-gay legislation, the single factor that dictates that most is whether they know any gay people. I think the same is going to happen with poly and with kink, is the more of us who can afford to be out, and obviously some of us cannot for the reasons that Wry just mentioned, but those of us who can afford to be out, please be. Because if your neighbors know you're poly and know that you're a good person, that's going to make it much harder for them to vote for laws like they have in some places that don't allow multiple unrelated people to rent under the same roof.
You can accidentally get prosecuted as a brothel if you're not careful.
Yeah. Ridiculous stuff like that, which is often intended to preclude the sort of non-consensual polygyny that we talked about earlier, but in fact it slops over onto consensual and very happy poly people as well. I
am not queer. I don't feel comfortable calling myself queer, but I'm absolutely a queer ally, and I feel that anyone that's non-monogamous should be, must be. I can't see how you can not support all sexual minority groups. And I tell you, I wouldn't have said that 10 years ago because I was a Catholic that almost became a priest, and I really thought that gay people were going to hell. I believed that shit.
Yeah, but they're going to have so much more fun down there.
well, oddly enough, the only good thing that came out about the whole pedophilia scandal is realizing, holy shit, all the priests are gay.
Yeah.
Right? And that's actually what happens when you vilify a sexual minority group, is that it goes so deep in the closet that it hates itself and spreads hate on itself. And I encourage, when you say afford to be out about all this, it's also emotionally afford, because it does take its toll.
You'll lose friends, you will.
Oh, yes.
And some people lose comfortable relationships with their families of origin. You know your situation and I don't. I've never met any of you before. But at least consider being more out than you are, letting the people in your life know that it is possible to be poly and healthy, and to have good families and good jobs and good lives.
To bring the conversation back to trans issues as it relates to this, one of the moments that I really felt like, wow, we've got an ally here that I didn't really think about, was when Facebook cracked down on real names, and suddenly all the trans and drag people and all that had to use their real legal names, which you're like, who the fuck is this person? I don't know this name. Well, a lot of people in these communities, in this room, have 2 Facebook pages. What happens if they crack down and force them all to be real names or to choose and delete them? And the reason they have those 2 Facebook pages is to maintain a degree of in and out of the closet, depending on who deserves to know, and whether they're gonna get fired or not, and whether they wanna deal with their grandma, their grandpa, their mother, their cousins. Distant cousins, do you need to deal with your religious distant cousins giving you a lot of shit? I don't know if you need to deal with that. And some people choose to have 2 lives, living a double life. And I validate that, it's a valid approach, but not if Facebook won't let us.
Yeah.
For years on Facebook, my Facebook name was A Wry Perspective. Perspective being my last name. Like and I'm on all social media, and you can still go to facebook.com/A Perspective, but they forced me to change my real name. And I had to make a hard choice. It's like, the whole world forever knows what I'm doing. And so now I just said, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. This is my real name, this is what I'm doing, but I'm still Wry. And I really relate to that problem.
One of the things that the internet can do, in addition to all the wonderful things we've talked about before, is it can provide a support network for people who maybe do not have one locally. Now, we have the makings of a support network in this room if we want to do that. I have had people start passing notepads around after my talks and forming munches based on their presence in the room. But even if that does not work here, it's hard to think of any kink that is so sparsely used that you can't find a group for it on the internet. You know, if you're into left-handed fisting with nitrile gloves, there's a freaking group for it. And obviously that's not going to help if you've been assaulted. It's not going to help if your mother has just said she never wants to speak to you again. That's going to hurt. It's going to hurt even if you're surrounded with like minds. But it can at least make you know you're not alone.
You can also find that fisting group from someone who has been assaulted. Like, that's the specific thing, right? Like, there's going to be crossover and intersectionality of these things where when you think you're this plus this and that makes you alone, there's probably still that group out there, or you create it.
You talked about discrimination. I'm currently a very visibly trans person, and I just can't use bathrooms that easily in public places. The last time that I was attacked and it was a couple of weeks ago when somebody was screaming faggot at me. And like, I was literally attacked. These things happen. How do I be me? I can't not be me. And while what I dealt with not that long ago was a little extreme, it's not that unusual, and it's also something that you can persevere through. You can just be you and be strong. The way that I'm strong is I have a therapist, and I see her when I need to, and I call her when I need to. If I didn't have a therapist, I couldn't make it through. I know that we talked about maybe mental health being a topic that we covered, and that's something that I'm open to talking about, but mental health is a thing that in poly and queer circles, sometimes doesn't get as much attention as it does, because it's amazing when you have beautiful, loving relationships with people who are healthy. You can have these relationships with people who are not healthy right now, and have hope and work with them that they will be healthy, and work with people with where they're at. But you can succeed at these things. You have to keep going.
I recognize that my life is much easier than most of the planet. I really recognize that, and that's part of the reason why I feel so compelled to do as much work as I can to make it easier for everyone else. And I feel like that is a burden I must and should and want to take on.
And the National Coalition for Sexual Freedom does a lot of work on kink and poly when people are harmed because of that as well. But
I don't know of any specific things.
No.
One thing that is a resource, on my website I have a list of polyamory forums that span the nation and the globe, on Facebook and FetLife in particular. And in general, if you have a question regarding that and you need something that's relevant right now, you can probably get 500 answers from various forums. And the wealth of the hive mind should be reaped. We can't know everything about every little situation. Although locally, if you have an issue, I know some powerful lawyers that work in alt-sex and who are extremely alternative themselves, who can help in these areas. Sometimes they'll do pro bono, sometimes it's expensive, whatever. They may pass you on to other people, but if you need some advice locally for that, you can contact me.
one thing, this is sort of tangentially relevant, but I think I want to say it. My experience with those who are hostile toward whatever it is you are, whether it's because you're gay or whether it's because you're trans or whether it's because you're poly, In my experience, the thing that really chaps their hide is not that you are that thing, but that you are not ashamed of it. That's where, because they've got their own little secrets that they're ashamed of, and to see you being proud with what you are, it's going to piss them off. So if you're having trouble understanding why the hostility, that's why. And it can sometimes help you sidestep a situation, or at least understand and have some compassion for people who are upset by who you are.
In general, you can at least understand how, on your point, let's say I am somehow good friends with another man who is polyamorous and has all these things going on, but he has to, for various reasons, made the choice to be in the closet. He's going to be envious and jealous as hell about my life and what I get to do because I'm so out. And so you could see how, even though we're living the same life, mine's better for those reasons. And that's going to piss him off, and he might actually talk mega shit on me because he's so jealous and envious of what I'm doing. I'm not saying that's always the case, but you could see how he'd be frustrated with the binds that make him feel like he's got to be in the closet, but I don't. And if it's economic or if it's familial, oh man, that's a hard choice. If you know that your parents are going to disown you and you're going to get fired, oh man, that's going to create some real envy towards what I've got going on. And for that matter, have my parents disowned me? Not quite, but funky.
Yes, if you have money to contribute, contributing it to Woodhull, to NCSF, to some of the people that are standing up for our rights is a really good place to put your money.
You know, as I watch the political election going on right now, I see how much money is being dumped into media and commercials and just get the word out about this vote. Well, why can't we get the word out about our rights and our needs? You know, instead of just the mainstream of the nation trying to pick a leader of the country, we matter too, and we need to fund ourselves. Nobody else is going to do it.